What we do here is go back, 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 back.
Good morning, everybody. Or good evening. Or good night. Thanks for tuning in to Nailed It. I'm your host, Caleb Nail. Today is July 28th. It's July. Say it as a question. It's already July 28th? Holy smokes. July 28th, 2025. In today's episode, I'm calling Answering the Lord's Call for Your Life. Real quick, how we got here this morning is I slept through my alarms. Let me rephrase that. I did not sleep through my alarm. I woke up and hit snooze because 2 hours before, well, I was tossing and turning and struggling to go to sleep. Then 2 hours before my alarm went off, my 2-year-old gets up, comes into my room, and I'm trying to get him to stop coming into my room. So I take him back to bed, and I lay down with him, and I toss and turn because I can't sleep for an hour and a half because that kid is tossing and turning, kicking me. Finally, I just said, forget it. And I got up and left. And then my alarm went off, turned it off, didn't turn it off, snoozed it. And of course, when you snooze it, you expect it to go off in 10 minutes. I don't know if it did or not. I don't know, but I kept sleeping. So then, I just got up, ran out here, gonna hit record. So you're getting a fresh Caleb Nail right out of bed. And it's another beautiful morning. Like as the sun slowly rises, I mean, clouds are pink. I mean, it's harvest time, getting close to harvest time. Everybody's in the field. The dust is in the air. So we get beautiful sunrises and sunsets here. But it's a little chilly. I had to throw on a jacket again. Last night, as I was prepping for the show, I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I didn't know. You know what? I'm going to leave it up to the Lord. We'll see what happens. Found a couple things in the news that we'll touch on, but they all had something similar. They all had something in common. And we'll talk about it. I think it's hard to talk about. It's difficult to know. But I think it's important that we try and find this out. We're going to start in James 4. So James chapter 4, verse 13 through 17. Turn up the brightness on my phone really quick. Should have grabbed the actual Bible. But James chapter 4, verses 13 through 17. Now listen. You who say, today or tomorrow, we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. Why, you do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Thanks, James. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogant schemes. All such boasting is evil. If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin for them. You see, I find this crazy because I did not plan my topic today around the Bible verse. This is nuts. This is nuts. Okay, let's read this again. Listen, you who say today or tomorrow we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. Why, you do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogant schemes. All such boasting is evil. If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin for them. So, one of the things that my wife and I have started doing on Sundays is we try and do our best, and I've shared this already with you. We try to do our best to get rid of all screens on Sundays. TV, phone, computers, everything. Now, she does better than I do at it. Yesterday, I spent time texting some friends. We had friends over, communicating with them, and which was awesome. We just, you know, when we use screens, there's a purpose behind it on a Sunday, and we don't do a lot of it. And then I'm in a Pokemon Draft League. If you don't know what that is, it's awesome. I'm 30, I know, but I guarantee you would like it. I put money on it that you would like it. Anyways, so I had my battle that I had to do, and so communication there, and then of course playing the game. But it's so nice not having these screens around. It forces our kids to play, use their imagination, forces us to do the same thing, forces us to play, talk, use our imagination, clean, things like that. Last night we had put the kids to bed, sitting there, and we can't turn on Netflix, we can't turn on Amazon to watch a show. So we're just sitting on the couch and we're talking. And a month ago, right before I started doing this pod consistently, I was trying to find. I was talking a lot with God because I didn't know what His call for my life was, and I was fighting. Come to find out, I was fighting His call for my life. I was fighting it. Got rid of podcasting. Told myself it was a waste of time, and I'm not going to do it anymore. Telling myself I'm not made to be in the business of insurance. It's telling myself all these negative things, and I think just by telling yourself negative things, that plays a big role on your body, on your brain. But two, I wasn't honoring the Lord in where He had me, right? I think there's a part of being content, right, where you're at. That's very biblical. Being content and honoring the Lord where you're at. Then, let's go back to James. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. Not only will we live, but in John 10, verse 10, John 10:10, Jesus talks about how He came to give life and life abundantly. So then I finally gave everything to the Lord, right? And I'll get to what we talked about last night. I'm so sorry, but this is just fascinating that like everything that's going on right now, like as of right now, putting the show together, what we're talking about. But when I turn everything over to the Lord, I realize, oh no, the Lord has me here for a reason. The Lord actually He gave me a gift. Maybe it's not a gift. I don't know. Maybe I just enjoy it too much. But speaking, And I can use that gift. And I can use that gift in insurance as well. And not only can I use that gift, but I can also lead people to Jesus using my gift. Podcasting, providing insurance for business owners. That's when that's I find that to be all of our calling is furthering the kingdom, Matthew 28:19. But we all have different gifts to do that. So my wife last night asked me, "Kale, what do you think my gifts are?" I was sharing with her those things. And then said, "Okay, well, I want to use my gifts for the kingdom." So we're talking about how we can begin to use our gifts for the kingdom. And what it came down to was rejecting what we know we ought to do. That's what it came because right? Now I'm speaking to you. You know what you should do. You know the good. We know the good that they ought to do, but we don't do it. And it is sin for us. That's what James says that in verse 17. If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin for them. And this verse came up last night. And I forgot it was in James. and it was going to be the next reading during the podcast. But that's what it came down to, right? Because I think it's so cool that I went through this a month ago. My wife is going through this now. Now I could be there to help her and just encourage her. Right? I just want to be encouraging, a voice, a shoulder to lean on, right? Because I don't. She knows what she likes. I do too. I'm her husband. I'm around her every day. But she knows the good that she ought to do. I want to encourage her to do that. And that's what it came down to, right? And I think the hardest thing is the world and our flesh make the good that we ought to do scary and confusing. And so we never take that step, or as some people say, we never jump in with 2 feet to that. But the second we do that, there is so much more that comes with it than if we don't. Right? The confusion, the depression, that goes away. Like for me, it was depression, it was confusion, it was a frustration that I'm not living the life that I wanted to. Right? I'm not providing the life I wanted to for my family. And then I stepped into the call for my life that the Lord anointed me with. And here we are. And I'm the joy, the peace that it brings. Oh, it's amazing. So I encourage you to step into that, right? No more running, no more hiding. We can't be like Jonah, right? The Lord called him to Nineveh. He ran away. But guess what? Here's the cool thing. The Lord's going to get us no matter what. Unless we completely reject him, he will continue to knock. Will we answer though? So I would use James chapter 4, verse 13 through 17 as encouragement. You know the good that you ought to do, and we don't do it. Therefore, it is sin for us. Well, we don't want to sin against Christ. Let's step into the good that we know we ought to do. And I think that good is the calling for our life that the Lord has for us. Now, when the Lord will anoint things, the good things that were used for the kingdom, but you may have to wait. Right? We talked about, I talked about with some people the story of David, the story of Joseph, right? And the Lord will anoint you, and then you may have to continually show your faith in the Lord. You're not going to get the prize right away. Right? The ultimate prize is actually being with Jesus. Right? But what do we do on this earth while we serve him? Spend some time, pause here, pray, and spend some time in prayer. Spend some time in silence. Just pause it. Turn off your you could turn on music like instrumental jazz or something, worship music, and just pray. Spend time in prayer. Then come back. All right. Now let's talk about some headlines. Some things that I think actually relate to answering the Lord's call for our life. One thing that I thought was just absolutely hilarious last night as I'm looking for things to talk about was Nikola Jokic, the basketball player for the Denver Nuggets, who is from Serbia. His horse won a race over the weekend. And we have all seen this before, but this was just on another level. His horse won a race, and he is bawling in tears of joy, just bawling, hugging people. I mean, hands over face, bawling with joy that his horse won. It's a reaction that I have not seen from him even after winning the NBA Finals, where he made millions and millions of dollars so that he could purchase and train horses and jockeys, and you know that comes with a lot of things. Training facilities, a trainer to actually train the trainer who trains. It comes with so much stuff that costs a lot of money. He made all that money in the NBA. And you can tell this guy just loves racing horses. He loves it. Does he love basketball? I think he does. And I think this is something that we can also use as we talk about the Lord's call for our life, right? One of the things that my wife and I talked about were things that we can do to delight in the Lord, right? We live our life, right? And some may even say our purpose, our entire purpose on earth is to delight in God. Well, Nikola Jokic has answered, right? And you can see this all over the place, but this is recently in the sports world with Nikola Jokic. You could do different things, right? Whether that's playing basketball, selling commercial insurance, and I'm not saying that Nikola Jokic is having fun, but just look at his body language on the basketball court and after he wins compared to his body language after winning a race, his horse race. Or I look at my life as selling commercial insurance and doing this podcast, and raising a family, things like that. We could do something else, right? And at the same time, we could do something that we may not necessarily think is the Lord's calling for our life. I would say selling commercial insurance was not where I thought I was going to be the rest of my life, or I didn't think the Lord had anything for me in commercial insurance. I had no idea this even existed. Now here we are, and it took me a year and a half to get there, but I am content. I'm happy being there. I can see the Lord using me there, and how he's going to use me there. And then on the other end, it has given me the ability to do this. Do this podcast, meet people that I could interview, And I I'm thankful for that. And last time we talked about the potter, like smashing down the jar. The Lord used that, used moving me to insurance to mold me and redirect me to Him. I think is awesome. And so Nikola Jokic he plays basketball. That's what he does. But I don't know if he has a relationship with the Lord. But you could see how much he loves racing horses. Sorry. I think I hear one of the gophers. If I get up and run, it's because I'm chasing down a gopher. I have been chasing this darn gopher forever. Anyways, I think there's things that the Lord we will do things, right? And then those things that we do, the Lord allows those things to be used to get us to His ultimate calling on our life, right? How we can affect the kingdom the most. Right now, if you're a Nuggets fan, should you be worried? Okay, there's another question for you. I would say yes. I would say yes. And the reason being is because you could see the passion he has for racing horses, and he has the millions of dollars. The NBA provides millions and millions of dollars to where you don't need the NBA anymore if you invest wisely. So if I was a Nuggets fan, yes, I would be worried. I'm hearing this. I'm going to have to grab a shovel, something right after this. So that was the first thing that I thought about that kind of related to answering the Lord's call for your life, right? You may be able to use the thing you're in right now, and you ought to do something else, good somewhere else, but He could use you where you're at right now to get to where you can affect the kingdom. The second thing that was going on yesterday and more last night is about Deion Sanders. So if you don't know who Deion Sanders is, you are new to sports. Thanks for listening. By the way, we don't only talk sports here. Every Saturday, we have a guest on. It's our Saturday specials. Go listen to the last one. It's with Rick Jimenez. Rick Jimenez is a former Marine from Fresno. He's a former Marine. Was a drill sergeant. He served in Iraq, active duty, and then he came back to Fresno and started a church. And he's now the lead pastor at Rivergate Ministries. He has a powerful story, and we talked about unity of the body of Christ. Well, actually, we didn't talk about the unity of the body of Christ. We talked about the unit. It's a woodpecker. Sorry, squirrel. The unity of churches in Fresno. It's a woodpecker, and he was pecking. It's a blue jay, and he's eating stuff off the tree. Well, okay, yeah, and he's hitting because a woodpecker. This is not. It sounded like he's getting stuff off the tree. Wow, that is so funny. Okay, the Blue Jays are pesky too. Anyways, Deion Sanders, college football coach for Colorado. He's brought a lot of money to Boulder, Colorado, because there's so much hype. There's so much hype there. His son was a very good quarterback. Travis Hunter there, who won the Heisman, best college football player in the country. There's a lot of eyes on Colorado past couple years. Well, he had some health issues, and he has a press conference today, and some are saying the rumor going around is he's going to retire. Okay, now, it wouldn't surprise me if he's going to retire. There's a part of me that doesn't think he will, though, because he loves the game of football. Right? He loves it. And I've heard people say things about Dion and the family and them being manipulative and them using Christ as like to elevate themselves. I don't want to say any of those things. I want to look at the fruits, right? We'll know them by their fruit. And I don't think the past defines you. So what you've done in the past, I believe in conversion, where a person does a 180 and completely changes. Look at Saul to Paul, right? Look at all the people that were used by the Lord in the Bible. So if things happen in the past, and they're a new person, I can't. I'm not going to bring those things up, right? I don't know. The reason I say that is because I see the way that he treats the boys, right? He's helping these kids. There's boys on those teams that their dads are in jail, and he's being a dad to them. He's a father figure to them. Right? He's helping these kids out. He's having them focus on careers rather than a game. He's having them focus on a career, maybe focusing on the Lord's calling on their life. And then now he is now focusing on the Lord's calling for his life or the season that he's in right now. Right? Because his kids have gone on now. They're in their careers. Now it's their time to search. The dad can be there. And I think that could be a problem, right? If dad is always there. We saw him visiting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't know if his son Shiloh is on that team or not or whatnot, but is he going to be calling coaches and things like that and trying to get his sons elevated within the program that they're in, rather than just encouraging his boys and having them learn and put in the work and things like that. Of course, he can be there for them. But I think, he's going through this time now is where he's thinking, oh, okay, I'm not coaching my kids anymore. Am I going to be coaching at Colorado? I hope he does. I think he's good for college football. One, I think he's good for the kids there, more importantly. And so that's why I want him to stay. But at the same time, I could see him saying, no, I want to be a dad and follow my kids around and encourage my kids. Well, I've made enough money, and I'm going to continue to help the people that I currently have around me. And I'm fine with that too. But I think it's funny that story also came up, and there is a correlation of that in answering the Lord's call for your life. Right? It makes you think again. Right? Even as I age and get older, there's still these seasons that the Lord has for us that we learn from and that we learn to rely on him for. And that call for our life continues to be furthering the kingdom, right? And I think if Deion Sanders can point college football players towards Christ, and he can do that, and he can coach football, he can delight in the Lord while coaching football, then I think he should do that. And if not, then if he can't delight in the Lord anymore, he's not going to further the kingdom, and that call is somewhere else, then he needs to go do that. Okay. Next headline is less so about this around the topic of answering the Lord's call for your life, but some headlines here. So ESPN networks are going to show 8, if not 10, of Bill Belichick's first games as North Carolina football's head coach. 8 of the, if not 10, and they play, just so you know, 12 regular season college football games. If they're good, if they're bad, we don't know. I don't think it's going to matter. They're going to try and push every narrative they can around Bill Belichick to get people to tune in. And a lot of people are saying ESPN is trying to create the Deion effect around Bill Belichick. Right? Like we talked about Deion here already. Deion created this huge buzz in college football, a massive buzz in Boulder, Colorado. I mean, Boulder, Colorado, what the influx of money that came in on game day, I mean, it was millions of dollars. Like, so many people were going to these games. He had celebrities on the sidelines. The student base showed up. I mean, Colorado was one of the worst college football programs in the country before Deion showed up. And all of a sudden, all this money comes in. Deion is all over TVs. And they're winning football. They're not even that great, to be honest. They're a 500 team. They win 7, 8 football games, 6 football games. They didn't win their bowl game. They went to one bowl game, didn't win it. But they created this Deion effect that they're calling it, I guess, which I think is good for football. And I think a lot of colleges should try and recreate the Deion effect. Here's the problem with trying to do it with Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick wants zero part of your cameras. He doesn't care. The only thing Bill Belichick cares about, there's 2 things he cares about. Winning football games and keeping his 24-year-old girlfriend happy. That's it. And even then, once you know what I think? Here's what I think. And this may be controversial, but once the winning isn't there, and we who keep up with Bill Belichick and the 24-year-old girlfriend, and we've seen what's gone on, he's not going to be happy. She's only going to cause misery. Honestly, I think it's only going to be a problem. And when he's not winning, and he's not happy at home, what does he have left? I hope he has Jesus. I hope their relationship turns to Jesus. But you can't recreate the Deion effect with Bill. You can't. And so what they're going to do is they're going to turn to this relationship that he has. Well, I don't know what is he, 70 something? And he's with this 25-year-old. I don't know, 25, 30. She looks 30 something. I don't know what she is. Oops, I shouldn't have said that. But they're going to turn to that and cause a lot of drama there, right? And it's just more stuff about getting into people's relationships and ungodly relationships, to say that. And I don't like this stuff. Like, I don't like that CEO at the Coldplay concert. You know, they're living a life of adultery. And Bill Belichick and this girlfriend, you know, who knows? They're not married. Who knows what they're doing? And like all this stuff. I don't like the spotlight on these types of relationships. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe the Lord is using it for good. But I'm not a huge fan of all the publicity. And you know that's what the ESPN and the media is going to go to when North Carolina isn't winning. And they're not, and the ACC is tough, and I don't think North Carolina is going to win a bunch of games this year. They don't have a Travis Hunter. They don't have a Shedeur Sanders. They don't have the great players that Deion had. And Deion didn't win a bunch of games. And with Clemson and Miami and Louisville, I don't think they're going to win that many games. And Georgia Tech's supposed to be decent this year. Anyways, we'll see what happens. That's Bill Belichick. Another headline. Transgender women and men have been banned from competing in women's sports or men's sport. Really, it's women's sports across all of United States Olympic and Paralympic governing bodies. Uh, there you go. I think that's good for our women. And then, last but not least, this is not local news or anything like that, but I've noticed this is that in advertising as of recently. So we lost, or for the past, I'd say 5 years, advertising has been more about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, more about the color of skin, the color of your skin, who you sleep with, what you worship, like what your God is, and more about, and not the true God. That's what advertising has been more about, and many companies have been going bankrupt. And you could say political or not. This is just, I'm talking business, right? Businesses decided to advertise that way, and they started to go bankrupt, or they lost a lot of money. That now recently you have started to see the sex sells advertising. And unfortunately, sex still sells. It always has, and it still is. Right, I see ads on the TV and on clothing companies are starting to do this again. It's not diversity, equity, inclusion anymore. It's sex sells. Both are bad. And now I understand why my parents were so frustrated back in the day with like the Carl's Jr. ads and all these like Victoria's Secret ads and all these different things. And I think what the newest one is like a jean company they put a gal on, and just like, look, women are created by the Lord and they are amazing and beautiful creatures. It's too bad men can't be that way. Like, we're just gross and stinky. But but here's the thing, as follower of Christ, as a man who struggles with lusting over women, I don't, and knowing the amount of men that struggle with that and fall into that temptation, luckily, a lot of us have, at least some guys I know that listen, we have, the Lord has taught us how to, or given us a way out of that temptation. And so it doesn't bother those things. I don't struggle with those things anymore. But many men still do. And as a brother in Christ, I don't want them to fall into that. I do not want them lusting over women. Once we fall into lusting over women, maybe even women over men, you know what Jesus says, even if thinking about that, then you've committed adultery in your heart. Right? And now we make light of it. Right? We have something that goes on at a Coldplay concert. We make light of it. But at the same time, I think it's good that it was called out. But the world's response to it was to make fun of it rather than pray for those families involved and really use it as a, hey, if you're sleeping with someone you shouldn't be, you should stop, because everything dark in the dark comes to light. Comes to the light. Anyways, so now we have this sex sales thing coming out, and with advertising, and I have to protect, not only protect my kids from it, I need to protect my friends from it. I need to protect myself from it, and I'm gonna have to protect my wife from. Like, I have to protect everybody from it. But that's just one of many things on planet Earth that people struggle with. Struggle with addiction, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, being angry and not a righteous anger, stealing, killing, like all these things. Like, there's people struggle with all these different things, and we have to point people back to Christ. And this is what there's an ad from Nike, actually, with Scotty after he won the Open and his son, and it said, like, you've already won, I believe. Those are the advertisements that I like to see. Right. Unfortunately, like, their companies are using slave labor and things like that. Gosh, sound like my parents. But those are the advertisements I like to see. That's how, and honestly, I think those are the most effective. Because people grow up. People eventually will find the Lord. And it's, what's the word? I don't know. It hurts me to know that there are people struggling out there, and we're going to throw boobs and butts in front of them so they buy things. And it specifically happens in the sports world because it's full of men. So we need to help our brothers out, and even maybe some sisters. So I encourage you. I don't know how to do it, but if we can encourage men to find the way out of those temptations, and women, I don't remember women too, because men aren't the only ones that struggle with the temptation of lust. Then we need to do that, and especially those of us in the sports world. Shoot me a call, DM me if you're struggling with that. And I would recommend praying. That would be the first step. Pray and find older people that can mentor you, people that have gone through it. And have found a way out. So that's where I'll end it. So turn it off again. Turn this off. Spend more time in prayer, in silence. I encourage you now, just in silence. Maybe go outside, listen to what's going on around you, the noises, the birds. Drive to the park and just spend time in silence and pray. Just spit and then listen to the Lord and what He has to say, and just listen to what's going on around you. How can we help those struggling around us? And then how can we answer the Lord's call for our life? Maybe that is a full-time investment into helping those with addiction. Maybe it's jumping in with 2 feet into your job, where you have lost your passion for it. And the Lord's going to use that. I don't know what that is. I can only tell you what mine is. I can help my wife with hers and my kids, and maybe and the people that I'm close with around me. But I encourage you, spend some time in silence and prayer, and pray for those things. James also says, pray and do not doubt. Right? Step in confidence into what the Lord has for you. Pray for courage. And I pray over this podcast every morning that whoever listens receives those things, receives courage to stand up for Jesus, receives courage to jump in with 2 feet to what the Lord has for them, has planned for them, and strength. So I just want to let you know that I don't know who personally is all out there listening, but I'm praying for everyone listening. Thank you. Thank you for listening. I will talk to you again Wednesday, and go back and listen to Rick Jimenez on Saturday. His episode was released. It's a very encouraging message. So I encourage you to do that. Have a wonderful Monday. I pray the start of your week is encouraging, and that you are able to speak with the Lord throughout the entire day. All right. Love you guys. Peace.